Oh, we're live.
This is Ask a Painter Live. This is Nick Slavik, the sole proprietor of Nick Slavik Painting and Restoration Co., where he uses over his multi-decades of experience of a craftsman and business person to placate his ego through a show.
I also answer questions.
And answer questions. Some would say he ask a painter. He answers questions as a painter.
Answers from a painter.
Answers from a painter. How was that for an intro?
I like that. That was really good. That was really good.
Right,
it proves that Jason... All right, we should just start over.
Yeah, press re-record. Where's the re-record button?
Yes, also a place where Nick finds lots of self-worth through others. So, yeah. This is Nick and Jason. We're in a Mustang convertible with the top up, so the wind isn't crazy.
We did put the top up so you can hear us. Yep. Typically, when we do shows together, we have major audio issues. And,
yeah. Anybody
we expect that as we go between cell towers.
Absolutely. So this will likely be a tech disaster, but maybe, I don't know, we'll be proven wrong. So this is Ask a Painter Live, and we are in Pennsylvania. Why are we in Pennsylvania, Jason Paris?
Corey Leister is a good friend of ours, and she held a painting refinishing class of learning and teaching, and we came to support her in her class and learn a lot and have camaraderie and meet a bunch of people.
Yep. And we got technical takeaways, many of those, but also the conversations that take place at these things are pretty robust, pretty deep, and it gives you a lot of perspective when you go to stuff like this.
I learned that when you're painting... Thanks for asking, Nick.
What did you learn, Jason Paris?
I learned that when you're painting a cabinet door, you really want to make sure that you don't put too high of mills on the underside of the door.
Yep.
That way you can have the best bottom in town.
Best bottom in town. That's right. That was a dad joke from Denny Jans. I like that one a lot. That was cool. So obviously we went deep on all the new imported coatings, the processes. The farriers were there from Surf Prep, which are some of the most substantial people I've ever met. So even just talking to them about sandpaper or not is pretty amazing. So it was good. Multi-day event. We all flew in Thursday. And a little kickoff. Or was it Friday? No, we flew in Friday. And then there was, in the evening, we had some kickoff sort of sessions like that.
Yep.
And again, great dinner, great evening, everything else.
Saturday was deep.
Yep.
A lot of class content.
Yep.
Who was it? Who started?
Let's see. Tanner? No, Tanner was the first one on Friday night. We had
Tanner Mullen with a great backstory.
Oh my God, I've never heard Tanner's full story before, and a lot of respect for that guy.
Yeah.
Even more than we have now. So,
yeah.
But there was like 5 or 6 people who spoke. I kind of capped off with the Surf Prep Family Feria Friday night, and then Saturday morning dropped right back into it. The Jenny Jans, the Diane Shaddix, Corey's mentor. I forget her name. She spoke too. So it was a great day. Speaker after speaker, everybody giving stories, stuff like that. It was awesome. So, Jason, how about takeaways? You love to ask me for takeaways. What's your takeaway from this?
Also, they had lots of candy.
Okay.
I was pounding Swedish fish in literal cups of Swedish fish.
It's it's a thing when Jason and I travel, I'm on really good behavior and I eat a lot of salads and I do a lot of exercise, and Jason reverts to just Halloween night every day. Hammer and Kit Kats.
Hammer and Kit Kats for breakfast.
Hammer and Kit Kats for breakfast, and take 2-3 chocolate bars home with you every night. Lots of pizza.
I did. Lots of gluten, lots of dairy.
But Jason's an Iron Man.
Lots of processed sugar.
Yep.
I'd say takeaway. I think it was maybe it was from the first night, but it was a combination. Mostly watching Skylar Faria from Surf Prep.
Yep.
And I was thinking the best, I don't know what you call it, the best gift you can have in life is passion, not success. And just watching, he's achieved both, but watching the passion that he talked about in his Surf Prep business.
Yeah.
This is like sandpaper stuff, from what I understand.
Yep.
And you could not buy. He has money. There's the worst thing in life is to be bored and passionless. And even with all the money in the world, that's a pretty painful thing to have. So I was thinking about you could be successful. You could also be like a starving artist. But if your face lights up the way that his face lit up, Denny Jans, the way his face lit up when they were talking about
Diane, all of them.
something they're super passionate about.
Yep.
That was my biggest takeaway was, I think the best, one of the best gifts in life is, not success, but passion.
I love that. And, I'm now working through Grit, the book, and grit is passion plus perseverance. And you can see that, like, passion is, in some ways it's a gift, but in some ways you have to foster it.
Yeah.
He finds it, and I can guarantee you, based on his story, the Faria family did not grow up thinking they're going to be sandpaper magnates.
Right.
And
you're right about the fostering part, because it could have been anything that he got into, and he would have been successful because he has that passion.
Yep. And that's a good lesson to all of us, which is, we may be in painting, we may be in other stuff, we may be in all that, but a passion isn't a lightning bolt that hits you. It can be something that you have to work for to get, and then to foster and create. And then, if you have enough perseverance to see it through over decades, like they have, magically, then they're your success centers.
There's not a lot of plodding passion actors in the world, and when it's just that simple equation of you do that for long enough with enough vigor, and just over time, there's a compounding effect that happens.
I agree. Anything surprise you?
What surprised me? I think the level of competency of attendees to a painting conference surprises me. So that's something we're kind of getting over, but it's just been a progression over the last 3-4 years of people who didn't have a ton of head trash. They weren't talking about, here's an issue I can't solve. There's much more of a problem-solving mindset. People that had some baseline competency of how business works or how metrics work. It's kind of starting with, not square zero, but at least some level of baseline. I think that was surprising because it's a painting conference. You never know what you're going to get, especially when you're learning about how to do cabinet stuff.
Yep. In the past, we have not had this experience. Like when I first entered the industry, a lot of the conversation was, hey, I have an operations manager. It's like, what does that even mean? How does that even work? Like, in a lifetime, will you ever be able to do something like that? Now it's like, it's clear that I need overhead. I need other positions. I need an admin. Like, hiring a bookkeeper is not this novel concept that only successful people do. It's like, no, now people just kind of they don't bat their eye when they talk about the steps they need to tap other people to have success. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that.
Yeah, that was cool.
So what else? What best conversation you had? What was a topic? What was a takeaway? What was a thing? What are you still thinking about or may think about when you go back home?
Yeah, I mean, we had probably the most volume of conversations with the Ellisons. So that was the first time I had met Brad's wife.
Yep.
What's her name? Just kidding. Her name is Rachel.
Substantial humans. Substantial humans.
So very substantial people. If there was the movie Elysium, they're like the elite human.
They are elite humans.
Like the elite humanoids that are in the spacecraft with all the healthcare.
Yep.
And then all of us painters are on Earth trying to toil.
You look at a couple mustachioed, scrubby looking dudes here from Minnesota. Yeah. It makes you think a lot about yourself when you meet a couple like that.
So I had the most volume of conversations with them. I mean, Brad's very well spoken. They're both very thoughtful.
Yep.
Brad has this novel thought paradigm, which you and I share, which is you don't take things for as a given. So you break them down to their most simple constructs and ask stupid questions to go through the thought exercises.
Yep.
So there's nothing that's assumed. So those are always fun conversations. And then the Farias we've talked about a little bit, but I mean, Skylar's a very intense dude, but also a great family man, and those were fun combos as well. I'm trying to think if there's some that really hit me hard. There was a handful of people that I talked to pretty early in their business, and again, the things they were talking about were kind of second level, not necessarily baseline level.
Yeah.
So how do you set up a comp plan to incentivize your production manager, to be aligned with the business goals?
Yep.
What are some tangible next steps of how you take that leap of faith when you're about to take on new overhead?
Yeah.
So.
And it was funny. I had I did a whole Ask a Painter Live on the hero's journey of a painter and all the 8 to 10 pieces of head trash that every one of us encounters. And the first one is always well, if somebody else paints, we'll be as good as me. Second one is always like, well, if I hire a full-time employee, will I even have the work? Every single painter goes through that journey, and it's fun. I had 10 different conversations about 10 different people who are going through 10 different things on the hero's journey of painting. And again, it's fun because, you and I may not have solved these for time and eternal, but we solved it in a weird way, in some way. So it's like a data point we can offer them and say, hey, here's what I experienced. Here's the things that signaled that was a thing, and then here's some things I tried, maybe even failed, and then succeeded with. So it's kind of fun to just offer people something that honestly was offered to me when I first joined the PCA, where I showed up and I said, hey, how am I going to have enough work if I hire my first person? And somebody's like, here's how it works.
Yeah. There were two things, even going back to the flight out. I was thinking about just the books we were listening to. Listening to and reading. And one was just how people... So when any person is, or you can say any organization is introduced to stress, they respond by coping. And there's like productive coping and unproductive coping, and watching individuals and organizations or organisms, how they respond to moments of stress. You kind of see that throughout the conference as well, right? Some people, I'd say most of the attendees there, they get introspective and problem solving and forward thinking, but there's also the ability to get combative and isolate yourself, or that's probably those two things would be the most destructive ways to respond to stress.
Well, and it's as simple as, when you're under stress, do you lash out at others or do you lash out at yourself? Lash out is probably not but do you look outward for a cure or do you look inward for a cure? And that's, people naturally kind of pick one of those, it feels like.
And then thinking through the different stages of business as well. So we had a couple of conversations about, are you overly focused on the wrong things?
Yes.
Or are you overly focused on an important thing at the wrong time?
Yes, that's exactly it. Yep. That's actually first and foremost in my mind, especially from the steering there. Yeah. All right. So, as predicted, the universe never fails. Jason and I found a new and novel way to be interrupted by tech. The phone overheated from the dashboard on the Mustang that was holding it. So awesome. So this is part 2. When we left off, we were ideating about, as your business gets more professional, the decisions seem to get more weighty, and then you have to take, easy now. You have to take more time to gather information and answer those questions. And you've always talked about the role of a CEO, and you've ideated about how that role works. And so I just thought it was a nice summary. But so what else, Jason? What's on your mind besides that stuff? How about PCA? Give us an update on the PCA, because we have 2 officers of the PCA in one vehicle right here, traveling around, trying to do the Lord's work for the organization.
We do. Well, I'd say the big hullabaloo right now is that all of our events are up for the year. So
we should say they're starting to get up. We're adding weekly. There are events getting shuttled on there all the time.
So we went through 2 years of not really promoting and pushing events too hard, but to be honest, that's a huge thing that the association does really well. And then even coming into Q1 this year, there was still some uncertainty. I don't know if you guys remember January, February, there was still some uncertainty what was going to happen this year, but we navigated that and then went through all the paperwork and the tape involved and with our sponsors and getting things underwritten, and now we're ready to rock and roll. So this will be a year of getting back up and running with events. So if you go to the PCA website, we have all of our in-person events listed out. You can navigate to from the top header. And I think that's the big news for the PCA right now.
Yep. And as I always tell anybody who will listen, your tenure as board chair has been a lot really behind the scenes. Obviously you're the face, everybody knows you, you're out there doing the public things you need to, but literally, you have been professionalizing the PCA just like your business. And every board chair, it seems, hands the baton off to somebody else. They put some bricks in the pyramid, and you added lots of bricks to that thing. You're constantly building up the stable base. Arguably, it's not the sexiest thing that you've devoted your time to, but it might be the most important, because literally what you've done over the last couple of years is lay such a wide and stable base that it could literally dictate where this organization goes for the next 10 decades. And especially because our industry is changing, and our industry association has to change with it, and it's great timing on that stuff. So now I feel like one of the major things you worked on was making sure that we had an answer to this question, which is why join the PCA. And honestly, when you and I joined, it was like, yeah, we can explain this sort of thing, but it wasn't an easy thing to just say,
right.
you know?
I think a lot of it was a club for a long time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of inherent value props that come to joining a club or just a member group. Nick's driving a little crazy. That's fine.
Painters love to commiserate.
Yep.
And the PCA filled that role for a long time.
Yeah.
Not to say that there wasn't other stuff going on, but
I would say it probably started, even I think a lot of the change started really 2 chairs ago.
Yeah.
And you just gave me, a bunch of kudos for being a good chair. And I'd say, every chair really aspires to do 2 things. One is to, during their tenure, they want it to be the strongest organization, the strongest that the organization has ever been.
Yep.
Right? You want to achieve that, and then you want to be able to hand it off and have the next chair be able to say the exact same thing.
Yes.
And I think there's been, kind of a course correction and a base building over the past couple of chairs, and I'm doing my best to hand it off to you, and that's really the goal of what we're trying to do. But the progression has been kind of like a hangout club, just like you're in it because it's fun to be in it, to what are the tangible benefits, to why someone would join as a member. And that's been, I feel like a 4-year journey that I've observed, and then I've been fortunate to partake in it, the last couple of years.
Yep, agreed. And so really what you've done is shorn up this organization. So now when people say, what is the PCA and why join? You and I have a way easier time than we did 5 years ago to basically make it tangible, transparent, accessible, and immediate.
Yeah, and we're getting better, right? So right now, when we're at the event, I tell people, the number one thing we do is events, and being a member gets you a discount to events, right? So membership is $400 a year. People look at the cost, and then you have to keep in mind this is a nonprofit that's underwritten very heavily by our sponsors. So, the cost of the services is about $1,200. If we were to put this in with a modest profit,
yep.
You say there's no profit, you cut the price down, and then you take it, it's supplemented and underwritten by all the major paint manufacturers, and then our partners at 3M and all the other organizations as well. So the events would be number one. Then all the training information, the collateral that's available to our members only. There's a lot of content that the PCA puts out to the industry for free, and that's really cool stuff. But there's some parts that are available just to members, and that is the part that we're really leaning into heavily to kind of develop and grow. We have really, really good content and really good resources for training your field staff and building up the production side of your business, which is important and super helpful. And now we're starting to lean in and get a little bit heavier on the business side of your organization.
Yep.
How do you drive a professional painting company, from all the main pillars that are involved there.
Yep.
Then to throw on top of that, we got the healthcare thing across the finish line last year.
Which is amazing. Yeah.
Which I'm hoping people are starting to realize and grasp what a big deal that is for PCA membership. I think there's a lot of areas where people will become PCA members just because of the healthcare thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could say your $400 will get you more than $400.
Yeah.
It'll at least pay for itself and then some. And not only the ease of that, but also tangible, real money savings. So
those are all the things that get you into it. And then I think guys like you and I, as our businesses progress, we still get a ton out of the PCA, especially in the networking and the events. But it's also a phenomenal place for us to give back.
Yep.
And that's kind of, you can never have a healthy nonprofit association without those 2 halves, where you always have those that are coming and looking to receive, but then you have a really healthy, solid base of individuals that are looking to give.
Yep.
And just to call a spade, it's actually like a big value prop to have an association that you can be a member in, where you're given the opportunity to give to others.
It's huge.
I'd say for me, that's a big reason why I'm in the PCA.
Yep. And I've always heard that true, real, substantial leaders have a purpose. And purpose is defined by having some reach outside of yourself. Success, knowledge, other things. It's fine if it's just you, but leaders look to spread that knowledge and help others around them. And that's what this organization does. And it's not one of those organizations where you got to put in your 30 years worth of time to do that. You want to get involved, you're a good person, you share the PCA's core values, you want to give back, start your painting company. The next day, you help out the PCA. Like we're all there for it.
It's a novel point in time too, right?
Yes. This is unique.
130 plus year old organization, and but it's at this inflection point where it's really adapting and evolving to the needs of the current time. Right?
And what I'm really happy about too is that, you know, in a lot of organizations, I'm involved in a lot of community veteran organizations like that. The culture of the organization sometimes makes it difficult for transition. Like sometimes it literally is an old guard who stands in the way of new progress, and that is not happening at the PCA.
I wouldn't be involved in the association if it was that way.
Exactly.
And I've been, you know, very, very fortunate and super pleased with, you know, the nimbleness and the adaptability of the association, you know, especially given its, you know, its deep historic roots.
Yeah, it's huge.
So
yeah,
that was cool. That was fun. It was fun to support Corey and kind of foster that relationship. It was an event that was on the PCA website. We've got a number of other ones coming up. One of which, in the end of June, we're bringing back Paint by Numbers.
Yes,
bringing back Paint by Numbers. And you attended the last one.
The inaugural one. Yep.
Inaugural one, December of 2019.
Yep.
2020 and 2021 were not the years to have our second large-scale event, but looking forward to bring that back. Paint by Numbers was something that my team had hosted in December 2019, and then this year we're partnering with the PCA to bring it back. So we're bringing it back in end of June. We'll get some registration information up on the website next week.
My team still references the documents, the spreadsheets, and everything that you guys used. And actually, I told my team that we're having a PBN event again, and they're like, "Yep, we're going to. Can't wait! I can't wait to get a refresher because 2-3 years later, it's going to be fun to see how you guys do that stuff differently."
Yeah, there's probably two parts to it. One, they can do a little deeper learning now that they have some practical experience, which is helpful. And then, you know, our organization has evolved, you know, substantially since 2019 as well.
You know.
Yeah.
1 gallon at a time.
One gallon at a time. Humble painter from Flyover Country, but
no, I can't wait, man.
The people speaking are going to be world-class individuals. Like Mark is going to be talking about how to best utilize subcontractors.
Yes,
and when you want to talk about, you know, a domain expert in his field, Mark manages over $10 million of subcontracted revenue in Paris painting. Right, he's like got this dialed in. He's really good at it, and it's not like me up there trying to talk as the business owner. This is like the guy who actually does the work. And that's going to be the theme throughout the conference: is individuals that are domain experts sharing kind of some of their fundamental concepts and wins on how to excel at their domain and their function.
So now I'm getting asked a lot. Summer. Like how. What is this event? Is it one of those forums? Is it how do we tell people kind of what is this Expo Light? Is this Expo Junior? Is it Summer Expo? I mean, what is this?
Yeah, maybe Summer Expo, but you know, this is going to be the first one that we're going to partner with the PCA on, and I think we're going to make this an annual mainstay. And so, you know, my expectations are a little tempered to see what we're going to have. It's a pretty tight turnaround for it getting up and live, but I think it's something that's going to be another big rock in the calendar every single year. But I think there's going to be a lot of regional events that the PCA will continue to drive over the years to come. So I don't know if I would call it like the main summer event. I think it's going to be a very, very strong event that's in the summer in the Midwest. And I think we'll have a great regional draw. And then, you know, as long as you and I are have a high profile for the next couple of years, you'd say it should have a pretty good draw as well.
It will. And you know, one thing that we've made a habit of is basically casting our nets out and finding the Corey Leister with her impact event, master's classes, PBN, people who are doing this stuff, and then using the resources of the PCA and that event and coupling together. So not all of the PCA's events have to be born and bred PCA things.
Well, the PCA, I think the industry thrives the most when the PCA acts like a big tent.
Yes.
Right? And it's the big tent that, you know, because it has a very, very strong name and very, the membership of PCA is pretty high profile. As far as being like the top of the industry. Those that are welcomed in and make it into the big tent have gone through some pretty serious vetting. Right? So we're like even with our sponsors, like we're not bringing like fly-by-night sponsors on to the PCA to support.
If you have money, it's not a given. We'll take it.
No, you've got to, you know, live by the values and I forget what it's called, where you say you're going to do certain things.
Code of conduct.
The code of conduct.
And you also have to want what we want for the industry.
Right. Yeah.
You gotta
you have
want
to follow the ethos, the spirit of cooperation and giving back and wanting all ships to rise, and that's not for everybody. That's not for every entity and like subgroup type structure. But those that, I mean, the PCA's only mission is to build better contractors. And if we can find a way to do that with other people, we're full game for that.
You and I obviously can't do all of this alone. We need the members, we need the sponsors, we need everybody. And then when you find the Surf Prep family who legitimately want, I mean, fine, they'll sell you some sandpaper and it's world class, but they want something more. They literally want to help people, in a deep way. And boy, it makes it, that's an easy one when we can partner with people like that who, tried and true, that's their life. So but we're finding this cool force multiplier now where there's it's kind of a thing that builds on itself, where the cool kids show up, people want to help, we actually start seeing some interest, more stuff shows up on social media, and it attracts more people. And it's really fun to see this compounding effect now of all these thought leaders and people. And again, there's people who have been in business for 2 to 4 generations who are part of this, and there's people who literally started this last year, and they're all contributing to our industry. So really fun. So I will say this: most people don't know how painting industry events work. I've been doing this for probably 5 years now, and there is an absolute calendar rhythm to this sort of thing, which is in quarter 4 and quarter 1, a lot of marketing budgets get set, a lot of event planning goes on, a lot of all the kind of calendars get starting to talk about. End of quarter 1, early quarter 2, then everybody makes the decision, we start planning, and then events start going up. And then it's really heavy for about 7 months, 8 months after that with events. So I would check the PCA's website of events weekly, because literally we will be adding events weekly to that. I mean, I have probably 6 master's classes that are in the works of finally getting the little ribbon put on them, being done, but they're not on the website yet because we want to make sure we give good information. So check back often. Now, is this the part where we sit in awkward silence?
I was going to say, let's just stop talking.
You want to have a nice Minnesota introverted moment and just listen to the hum of the highway?
Yeah. Why is that eyeball number going down? People are stop watching. Okay, we have more time. We need to talk about stuff.
No, we can not talk. We can talk. I mean, is there anything you else want to hit before we call it a day? All right, we'll take that as about it. Anyway, oh yes, Ask a Painter Live Summer Retreat will be on the PCA's website shortly. The PCA was nice enough to mention that.
Nice.
So we're doing at least 2 a year. We're running into things where we're going to luxury estates, and they're hard to come by, and they're hard to schedule because they usually book out years in advance. So we're lucky enough to still secured our luxury log cabin up in northern Minnesota. It'll be late August this year. There is an application process. Because we will be living on the same compound together, we don't let just anybody in. We got to make sure that you share our core values, you have a progressive, aggressive mindset. We fill out an application, and we basically go on it's not first come, first serve. It's more like first alumni served sort of thing, which is, if you've been to a retreat before, you get first right of refusal. If you want to come to this one, we will have a slot for you if there's an open bed. And then I always like to mix in 1 to 3 new people just to keep the group active and alive, and anybody from any stage of business. We even let a marketer in last time, which was a huge risk, but turned out pretty cool. So
that's pretty cool.
So look for more on that. If you want to apply to come to the Ask a Painter Live Retreat, again, we only do like 18 people to one of these things. So you got to go search it up on Facebook and apply for it. Fill out an application, and we'll let you know.
Any exciting things planned with your family this summer?
Yes, so I'm circling around the idea of a wilderness float plane trip to Canada this summer. So you have fingers. That's okay.
Yeah.
Your finger covers.
Well, I was just
my face,
looking. Jesse made a comment that said, I'm just kidding. PCA event in the Twin Cities coming soon, and that's right. Paint by numbers.
Yes.
End of June. The information has started to trickle onto the PCA website, but we'll have the registration link and everything else live next week.
And interestingly enough, we're working with Graco and Sherwin-Williams to possibly make the largest master's class outside of a Sherwin-Williams Pro Show that's ever been done, and that's probably going to be in November of this year at the Graco World Headquarters with all the robots, and we're going to try to get a few hundred people in for that Masters class on my home turf here in Minnesota, so that'll be awesome.
So a couple of things coming up for Jesse. All right, you were telling us about your summer plans.
Yeah, so I'd like to do a float plane trip to Canada, a place where you're the only person on this entire lake. There's Indian petroglyphs, there's waterfalls, there's wilderness, like real wilderness, where there is no roads, there's no electricity, there's no nothing, and fly the whole family and the dog out there. So, yeah. How about you, man?
We're going to go to Alaska in June, and then we've got our camping rocks in for Memorial Day, Labor Day.
Love that.
And then I think mostly just doing trips for painting stuff.
Yes, yeah. So, and Jason and I, we're 90% certain that him and I are going to hit the road this year and do this. So we're going to try to sync up our calendars and see if we can make this work. But this impact event for Corey Leister, Nick and Jason randomly show up. We have kind of, well, you were a big underwriter of the event, and you were there in official capacity as Olive.
I was actually there for Olive Holdings.
Yes, you were, the entire time.
Yeah.
Even while eating candy.
Even while eating lots of candy. But it was a business expense.
Yeah. But this probably will not be the last time you guys see us in some sort of car, hitting the road, doing the work for the PCA, for master's classes, and trying to make like Jason said, we got a couple-year term at the head of this thing, and we want to make sure that we use every ounce of our whatever we have, our cachet for the industry, and do this. So
it's going to be a little bit of a sprint.
Yep.
But I had a lot of fun when we did our group class at the PCA Expo.
That was one of the funnest things I've ever done in this industry. Yep.
So we'll see if people get annoyed with me. I think people get annoyed at me quicker than you. But if it ends up being fun for us and the people in the crowd, it would be fun to do classes with you this year.
Yeah.
And we'll see if we can make that happen.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be an absolute blast. And I would love to see some of my master's classes for very selfish reasons. You can give me feedback as well, too. So,
All right. Should we shut it down?
That's it, man.
All right.
Let's do it. Eyes on the road.
Here we go. Have a great day. That was great.
Now there's a series of buttons. Follow the commands. Very